Hi everyone, this is Nick from TbT, www.airrifletuning.com. I'm here today making a video with some exciting news. Over the years, TbT have made kits predominantly without springs. We started out making kits without springs. The reason for my first kits that I made for myself were because I was buying a gun and throwing away a perfectly good spring and fitting usually an inferior aftermarket spring into it with a kit that I bought, and it didn't make sense. It's an expensive way of doing things. It ends up with a spring that's not as good as the one you started with, and it made no sense, so I started making guides. From making my own guides I started making them for friends. Then with the advent of internet forums, things like that, started advertising them, and now we're doing several hundred a month. Very shortly after starting, we were asked all the time if we could supply springs, because a lot of the time people want or need a new spring in an older gun anyway, and we looked around at all the aftermarket options that were about, and have done several times since, and none of them were as good as the genuine weihrauch spring. As most of you know, you go and ask about springs, most people will say to you aftermarket springs are too harsh, they're too stiff, they don't fit, they're kind of a one-size-fits-all option, and they're not as good or as soft or as nice to shoot as the genuine article. As a result of that, we've always used genuine weihrauch springs. But we're getting to a point now where supply is becoming difficult, for various reasons. It's not just the B word, but we're using more springs than perhaps weihrauch are, and they're not really able to keep up. So I started looking around at the aftermarket spring market again, and it was pretty much the same springs, and they were pretty much the same, so it wasn't an option. So I looked at another option, which was designing and making our own springs, which is what we've done, and I have them. They are here. I didn't go radical. These are round wire section. I took all the bits that are best about a weihrauch, and what I basically did was look at the weihrauch spring and thought, okay, if I'm going to make something like this, what could I improve? So initially, the first thing I did was make them in different lengths. So we've got springs that are factory finished, that are available for UK sub 12 foot-pound, sub 12 foot-pound with a short stroke, or FAC power. All available straight off the shelf. This does not mean, by the way, as always, it does not mean if you buy a 12 foot-pound spring it will be 12 foot-pound, because that isn't the way it works. There's a huge difference from gun to gun to gun to gun, calibers, efficiency, seals, stuff like that. But it's a spring that is designed to be used at 12 foot-pound, not at FAC, whereas this one is a spring that's designed to be used at FAC, not at 12 foot-pound. So different lengths to suit different guns, different strokes, different power limits. Then we looked at what our customers say. I'm always looking at what our customers say. I always want to hear what you have to say. When you get a new spring, it is X length from the factory. When it's been compressed, it is Y length, usually about 10% shorter. This is called taking a set. It's perfectly normal. It's what happens to springs. But unfortunately, what it means is when you're trying to fit the spring for the very first time, you've got 10% more sticking out the back of the gun, which makes it 30% more difficult to put it back together. There's a term called scragging, which is you compress a spring and then decompress it again, and that will take it down to its working length. Doing that at home isn't advised, because you can ruin a spring if you don't do it right, so I've never advised people to do it. So when we spoke to, also I'm not physically making these myself. I'm not that clever. I don't have the right machinery or the right factory, if I put it that way. These are being made in the UK. These are English, British made, from silicon steel, silicon carbon? Silicon steel. Anyway, it's the best steel that you can get for the job. The guys that I've been working with to design this, I told them the remit. I wanted this to be the best spring you can get, which it is now. So these are going to be supplied pre-compressed. So when these are made, they're made in a huge great length, they're compressed. then they're decompressed, then they're cut to length, and then they're flattened at the ends, and they're ground, and then they're compressed again. So the spring that you will be supplied with is at its working length. This is going to make a big difference to rebuilding. It's going to make it so much easier, and for power testing, because the power will be immediately where it will stay, near enough. So pre-compressed springs, better than the ones we've been supplying before. Then I looked at how we're going to finish the spring, and there's a process called shot peening, which is where you get the spring and it is bombarded with tiny ball bearings at huge speeds all over the surface of the spring. The reason for doing this, when a spring's wound, you get micro fissures all over the face of the spring. I am going to be trying to get some microscope photos to show you of other springs and this spring to show you this. It will go on the website at some point if and when I succeed in doing that. But these have been shot peened, so all of the micro fissures that have been opened up have been healed up again by the shot peening process. It also hardens the outside of the spring, the compression, the load, the force of it strengthens the spring. So this could last many more times than many more shots than a non-shot peened spring. And if you, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but at the ends it's been shot peened after it's been compressed. There's no machine marks there at all. It's just that. Whereas if you look at the weihrauch one, you can see the machine marks where it's been ground down because these haven't been shot peened. Now, when I started doing this, when I started working on making my own springs, having my own spring design, it was before the cost of living crisis came about. So at every stage of making these, I've gone for the more expensive option. These are made from the highest grade steel in the UK, not in China. They've been pre-stressed individually and they've been shot peened. So what I'm intending to do with the price is leave it exactly where it is. I know there's a cost of living crisis, I know there's a fuel crisis and electricity, all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to leave it where it is because I can. These will also, previously, all our springs, because I struggled to get enough to supply for the kits, the demand that we had for the kits. With these I can get as many as I want when I want. These will be for sale individually without the kit. So I know I've got a lot of customers who have their own lathes and they enjoy making their own guides. Great, they phone me up for advice, I'm always happy to give it. But now I've got a spring, a high quality spring that you can actually buy to make your own guides for, if you want to. Also, we're looking at packaging solutions for these at the moment. We will find some way of having some retail packaging, so for our distributors and any other gun shops that aren't currently distributors, if you want to get in contact we can talk about that. But there we go. This is, in my opinion, the best air rifle spring currently available. And I want you all to try it. On that, who should buy this? Should you throw away your spring and buy one of these? Absolutely not. This is better than the weihrauch one, but it isn't head, tails and over the fields and far away ahead of it. It is a better product, but please don't throw away a perfectly good spring to replace it with this. Wait until you need to replace the spring and then replace it with this. That is all. Thank you very much for watching. I would be very happy to hear back any feedback from customers when you try these. Well, I always do anyway. Any of our kits, just give me a call. Thank you very much. Bye.